Good morning, lovelies. So this is the second part of this project video. As I said before, I will be making this into a multi-part video. It's just a long and complicated project. So this video is all about creating the exterior of the coat. I will admit it took me like 3 days to cut out the fabric because I was being extremely nervous about working with this. It's the most expensive fabric I've ever bought. All told, this project probably came out about $250. That's including exterior fabric, which I managed to get at like 60% off, as opposed to full price. Full price, it would have been $25 an hour. I paid like $9, $10, somewhere in there. So I hope you enjoy watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye. Okay, so I am getting ready to put the darts in the back. For this outer part of the coat, this is the only like dart shaping. The rest of the shaping for this coat is done in the seamage, because the front has this like weird placket type thing that helps with the pocket, and then the back has this. So what you do is you do the shoulder dart as well as the bottom dart, and I do it this way because I've found this gives me a more accurate type of dart as opposed to other methods. There are other methods though, so if you want to try those, feel free. I do not discriminate against methods. Everyone needs a method. But anyway, so yes, after you put these darts in, you will stay stitch along the back, along the bottom, as well as around the collar. That way it doesn't warp out of shape as it is handled. And this is a, I wouldn't say tightly woven, but I wouldn't say completely loosely woven either. This is like a nice drapey woven wool blend fabric. It's got a nice drape to it. So you do need to do stay stitching. You will handle this fabric a lot trying to figure things out. So yes, putting in darts. Darts are not as fun as I used to think they are, but they do give the garment a nice shape. At one point during this coat, I looked at it and went, how many shades of black are there? So I've got velvet black, I've got wool black, and I've got velour black. So here I'm just putting in the second set of darts. I tend not to actually film myself sewing unless it's hand sewing, and then I just do clips. Mostly to save on time and editing, because just watching the needle go up and down on a machine cannot be fun. So yes. Darts going in. And then once that's done, I will be sewing up the back skirt portion of this coat and putting in that back plate. And yeah, I may have overpinned, but hey, it's better to overpin than underpin and have the thing shift on you. So yes, here I'm just marking the top of this pleat, as well as where I should do the ease stitching to help with the whole moving around thing, and as well as yeah, just kind of trying to mark where the important parts are. I didn't want to overmark because I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure. This is a whole new project for me. I've never done any type of tailoring before, so I kind of jumped in on the deep end. I've done a couple vests, but those were just like easy vests. Sorry about that. I have to have my phone on at the moment. So yes, once the back is sewn up, then you match the way the fabric sits, and then you sew down that line, and then you have a pleat. If any of you have watched my making a winter skirt where I do that, I do this type, well, I should have done this type of pleat on that when I did that skirt in the Christmas flannel. So yeah, I've done that, and now I am trying to get it to lay in the right spot so I can stay stitch the top and then iron the ever-living heck out of it with steam so that it'll lay flat and nice. And this all is sped up. Advice to give. Oh, there was really not that much advice to give, except take your time. Don't fuss too much. Personally, I did this exterior part probably in about 4 or 5 days, and that was pushing it. I was exhausted and I ended up getting sick at the end of that time, which extended my time period from 2 weeks to like 3 weeks, which was not fun. But anyway, once you've got that assembled and pressed, then you can attach the top to the bottom back. Top back to the bottom back. The bodice to the skirt. Again, take your time, use lots of pins. Depending on your materials, it may shift on you, it may try to fray on you. Yeah, just take your time. Do the best you can. Don't overwork yourself. I say that and then I go and overwork myself. So then it's kind of a next step to this whole process is kind of a strange one because you're making the pocket flaps, but they don't go over the pocket, they go in front of the pocket. And when I was doing this, I made the decision that I'm just going to do this, and then while it's not attached to the garment, I'm going to trim it so that it turns out relatively nice. And they say when you do this and you've sewn up all those pieces, then you should clip these corners so that they don't stuff down into the corner pocket, and then turn it out. At this point, I decided to start playing with this 5/8 inch polyester green velvet trim, which I think looks really nice. It's kind of classic. So I pinned back the part to check and see how it looked, and I was just kind of playing with it for like 30 minutes, trying to figure out if I liked where it was placed or if I wanted to do it close to the edge or what. I ended up just stopping myself because I realized I wasn't going to sew this the way I thought I was going to, and just sewed it up and then graded the seams, which means I clipped one smaller than the other, and then I also tried to clip down this canvas interfacing so that it would sit a little better. Once I'd done that, I turned it out, good person, using my blunt scissors to do that with. Once that was done and turned out, oh, forgive me, I need coffee. Yes, once that's done and turned out, then I played some more with the green velvet. Well, and pressed, because this became puffy when it was done. Once it was pressed, it sat nicely. So then I pinned the green velvet around the edge to see how it looked, and I realized it looked really nice because it helped to define the size of the pocket. So I then went through and hand stitched that around the edge because I didn't want to try and stuff this under the sewing machine. And it worked really nice. I just did a whip stitch around the edge, making sure to double, reinforce the corners where it was folded. And I just did a kind of basic miter's corner and slip stitched down those edges to make sure that they didn't fly up and distort. But other than that, it was really easy to do. I will say doing these flaps and doing this trim probably added a little more time than otherwise would have been done. But I think it worked out nicely, and I'm rather happy with it. I found this trim off of Amazon. I just looked up green velvet 5/8 inch trim. I like the way that the 5/8 inch looks. I don't think that the 3/8 of an inch would have looked as nice, and I think anything bigger would have been just too big. So yes. So here's the finished pocket flap. And there's approximately where it'll sit on the black wool blend fabric. So now I have to reinforce that corner where it's going to sit and cut it, and then line everything up so that it sits relatively nicely, because that is going to be the pocket opening. That is going to be where the pocket actually sits. And I kind of want it to be nice. I want my project to look nice. So, yes. So I decided to line my pocket fabric with this fabric instead of a slick fabric because cotton will probably hold up a little bit better, because I do tend to stick my hands in my pockets and I don't want it to wear through too fast. I can always replace the pockets. One nice thing about making your own clothes is you learn how to replace things. So this ended up becoming my kind of sneaky Slytherin coat with a little bit of Harry Potter influence. But if you know me at all, that should not surprise you. Oh, forgive the lighting quality. So here I'm just saying I need to stitch there, and then I need to stitch the seam to the pocket, and then here I just need to reinforce that corner so that when I sew it down, it doesn't warp itself. And here I'm just attaching the other pocket, which works out nicely. It does back forward a little bit, but I think it's supposed to. I think it's like a design feature, if that makes sense. But This whole pocket system is really confusing until you have the pieces in your hand, and then you can go, oh, that's how it works. That makes sense. But until you have that, it's kind of like a, what on earth? This makes no sense. So yes. Once you've sewn that and pressed it, you press the seams down, I think. Yeah. Press them down into the pocket. And then you go and stitch up the side seam. Once you've stitched the side seam, then you can stitch up the pocket. Once you've stitched the pocket, then you will hand sew the top part of the bodice to the top part of the pocket. And you just do that by whip stitch. Once that's done, then you have to work on the top part of the bodice, because this is like the lower skirt portion of the front. It does look really nice though. It drapes nicely and it moves nicely and it just kind of works. When you're sewing this, you do have to be careful not to catch the pocket flap in the piece. Oh, because I have so much material in this section, I pinned down that flap to make sure that it laid nicely. So yes, once that is sewn, you can press it open, press that seamage open, and then you have to hand stitch this little part. It's like right above the pocket opening where the pocket will go, so it will get a lot of stress. So you do want to make sure it's small stitches. I did this in a green silk thread, Gutermann thread, because I wanted it A to have a little strength, and B, I was testing out how the silk thread worked with this fabric, and it was lovely. It's like one of the best parts of hand sewing is testing out different threads and finding the ones you like. And I really like hand sewing with silk thread. It just it slides smoother, it doesn't get as knotted, and when it does get knotted, it isn't as horrible to pull apart, and it just moves so much better. I will be getting a spool of thread for my next project whenever I end up doing that, because this series of videos will be like a month long, because this was a big project and I wanted to space it out. So yes, once you have that hand sewn and reinforced and clipped so that it looks nice, then you will work on the bodice. I'm trying to remember if there's any. I think there's one dart in the bust. As this whole skirt system kind of took away the second one. Here I'm sewing up the pocket. Well, pinning the pocket to be sewn. So I just matched up these seams from the the top part of the seam to that, and then I matched up the notches, and then I just kind of went, and I'm done. I'm not gonna fuss with this too much. These are pockets. They are pockets. They are just pockets. No one's going to see them, and if you do see them, why are you in my pockets? I will say this is kind of a ridiculously warm coat, and I adore it for that feature. This week has kind of gotten cold, so I am enjoying having a super warm coat with pockets that are kind of ridiculously warm. Okay, so yes, it does have a dart in the side and a tuck in the front. Okay, if you are doing this pattern, this tuck right here marks where the lapel will naturally want to fold. If you are going to pad stitch, use this as your guide. where you want it to turn, because it will go straight down to the basically that where the curve starts for the collar. So yes, that is kind of important. If you're going to pad stitch, keep that in mind. Because I had not figured that out, so I pad stitched where I thought it would like work, and it worked, and it lined up. I just wish I'd known that, because that gives you a very defined line, and really would have helped me be a little less panicky about that, because I was not sure. So yes, I'm just marking the dart and the tuck. Once I've sewn that, I think I stay stitched around that part because it's got the dart in it, and it just kind of made sense to me. Yes, and then I just kind of put that piece onto the front skirt once this dart is in, because after you do the attaching to the front skirt, then you will be putting in the interfacing. And that's where I did my pad stitching. I'll be showing that to you in the next video. But once you've done the pad stitching, then you're kind of then you've got to sew up the back of the collar, which I think I'll show you here. But so you will get a sneak peek of the pad stitching I did. It was not the best because I was still learning, but it was better than not doing it at all, which could have happened. This pattern does not call for pad stitching. I think they just assume in the original pattern that you know what you're doing, and that if you're making a coat, you're probably you know a little bit aware of how it's going to look and what you need to do to make it look nice. But I was not there, and I do not have a lot of books on tailoring or sewing, so I watched a few YouTube videos to try and get a general idea of what on earth I was supposed to be doing. Then once the pieces are sewn to, once that dart's sewn up, then you will attach the bodice to the skirt, making sure to line up everything as well as you can. Then you will sew the side seams and the back of the collar, which I'm not showing because I don't want to give it away. Good me. Sorry, I edited this like last week while I was still working on it, so I've forgotten what I included in this video as opposed to other videos. So yes, once this is set up, I put it on the mannequin to hang because I want it to, want to stare at it a little bit because I'm proud of it. After that, then I will sew up the sleeves. The sleeves are a two-part sleeve, and they're rather easy to do until you get to the cuffs. The cuffs are not a turn-back cuff and not a cuff that is done individually. So yeah, that was a thing. The cuff instructions got rather got me confuddled. They tell you to match the corners up so that you get the cuff. Just there. So I was confused until I had the pieces in my hand, and then I was like, oh, well that makes sense. Why didn't they just say that? But they didn't just say that. So I had to figure that out. And that was no fun. When you're trying to figure it out because they didn't just say it, it's kind of confusing. What I'm trying to say is this piece matches up like a mitered corner. And if you've done any sewing of table runners or tablecloths or blankets, you know what a mitered corner is, where you do that 45-degree angle. Except they only give you like a 1/4-inch seam allowance. And they've already cut it, so you don't have the extra fabric to finagle. So what you do is on that fold line, where you're going to fold it because that's where the cuff is, you just match the ends of the 45-degree angle to it and sew. I will say this black fabric I'm working with has a lot of give to it. It is kind of loosely woven, as I said before, but it is a wool blend fabric, so that is kind of to be expected. So here I've sewn and pressed all of that, so here I am trying to figure it out, and then I'm like, hold on. Okay, which direction? I know this works, but which direction? Okay, so right sides to right sides, and it's just a mitered corner. That's basically what's going on in my head. I'm like, oh, I feel silly now. So yes, once that's done, you just turn it so the right side is out, and then you, along that line, you herringbone stitch the cuff down so that it'll stay in place while you're working on the lining. Again, if you are doing this pattern and you are planning on using a thick lining, like something pre-quilted, or you're going to thinsulate, fuse, super thick warm interfacing to your lining pieces, all of which is perfectly acceptable to do, make sure you go at least one size up. If you are close to switching sizes as is, which I'm kind of like right in between, my advice is go 2 sizes up, because you want room to be able to put on your coat. Also, if you are using a thick lining, you don't want to just use it on the pieces that you are around your body. You want to use them in the sleeves. However, quilted lining does not allow you to move your arms in and out of the sleeves. I'm finding this out. I will probably end up in the next week or so going and getting some just black lining fabric and putting them in, because I have difficulty getting my arms in and out, but I love the warmth. So yes. Oh, here's your sneak peek of my pad stitching endeavors. So this will probably be the this video, the pad stitching video, and the bound buttonhole video will probably be the only videos I edit with voice, because the other ones are kind of self-explanatory. The lining is the lining. There is no real big hoopla about it. The only piece of advice I have is one that I found out from watching Kathy Hayes' video, where she's trying to figure out how to do the velvet some crafts coat that she's going to wear around the house. If you're using velvet on your collar, put some fusible interface in there. Just like put fusible interface up for the whole thing. It'll make it lay nicely. It'll make it a little bit easier to work with because it's not stretching on you and not making you like want to rip out your hair. I did this and made it so much better to work with. If you're not using that, just a tip. So yes, let's see. So yes, I'm almost to the end of this video. I do think I gave you a sneak peek of
okay, this is just a quick wrap up because
I will say goodbye for now.
A few more things.
Editing Rebecca out.
It took me 3 days to sew this exterior together because I was A, trying to film it, B, I was trying to be extremely careful and follow the instructions so it actually, it's not right. C, if you are going to be lining this with anything thicker than a thin lining, make sure to go up a size, at least, if not 2 sizes. because this does bulk out quite a bit if you do. D, take your time when you're sewing this project. Take your time. Just in general, when you're sewing something, take your time. The more time you take, the more you are careful, the better it turns out. So really, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you all next time. Bye.